Full spoilers ahead.
September 2022 marks the 20th anniversary of a popular little flick from M. Night Shyamalan's. Signs released to a mixed bag of reviews. Some people found it an elegant exploration of grief and faith, while other people found the subject matter dull and recycled. I am a fan of Signs, but with the obvious exception of The Sixth Sense, I've always found Shyamalan's writing to be very heavy-handed. He spells everything out for the audience as if we can't infer things ourselves. In fact, in Signs, he breaks the golden rule of show don't tell so many times, it actually turns it into a pretty cool drinking game. And in case you're not familiar with the term, show don't tell is a technique used in writing where characters in the story are related to the audience through sensory details and actions, and not through just saying things. For example, instead of having a character say, "I'm very hot," you have the character wipe sweat from their forehead and go, "Whew," and the audience infers they're very hot. To prove my point, let's take a closer look at Signs, and every time Shammers blatantly tells us something instead of showing us, I'll throw this symbol up, and we can all take a drink. Let's go.
The plot.
The story takes place in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Graham Hess, played by Mel Gibson about 4 years before everyone started hating him, is a recently retired priest who's now a farmer that doesn't do any kind of farming in the movie. He lives on the farm with his 2 children, who are very cute despite their 60-year-old personalities. His son Morgan has asthma, and his daughter Beau is a germaphobe, but only with glasses of water, and for no particular reason. Graham's younger brother Merrill, played by a little-known actor named Joking Pharynx, moved in with the family after Graham's wife was killed in a car accident 6 months earlier. Graham's special talent is that he can swing a baseball bat real hard. One lovely Doylestown morning, the family finds a crop circle in one of Graham's cornfields. And despite crop circles being a stupid, boring trend from the 1970s, the family is so perplexed by it, Graham phones the police. And when they arrive, he tears into the officer for taking 2 whole hours to show up. He's complaining over 2 hours. That scene didn't age very well, did it? 5-year-old Beau designates her glass of water contaminated, and when she tries panning it off on the dog goes berserk. Which would have been confusing as hell if the police officer didn't tell us some local animals have been acting funny and violent in the very next scene. And somehow, without basing it on anything, she knows it isn't a virus. Because the animals are edgy and alert and peeing on themselves. Almost the way they act when a predator's around. Drink. A millisecond later, we learn the German Shepherd tried to attack Beau and it died when it impaled itself on the barbecue fork Morgan was holding. So Graham's all like, okay, no biggie. Let's all just go inside now, no questions asked. And that night, young Beau comes into Graham's room complaining of a monster outside her window. And despite all the weird goings-on at the farm, Graham's all like, okay, I guess, no biggie. And then he sees something disturbing on the roof outside the window. Hello, just me, your neighbor Johnny. I can't seem to find the front door. It's pretty dark right now. I was hoping to borrow your barbecue fork if you weren't using it for anything. We're doing shish kebabs tomorrow and I've only got a potato masher. No? Graham and Merrill try scaring the weirdo off, but it disappears into the cornfields before they get a chance to identify it. So they bring the police officer back in the morning, and when she arrives, she tells us how great and nice she thinks Merrill is for moving in with them after Graham's wife died. Drink! And while they're all around the table, Beau tells everyone they're talking about the crop circles on TV. And the expert on TV tells us there's crop circles springing up everywhere, and they're either a hoax, or basically, they're for real. Drink! Then the officer leaves to go drink some coffee, but before she leaves, she tells us the death of Graham's wife has been tough on the family. Drink! The family heads into town. Graham goes to the pharmacy, the kids beeline it to the bookstore, and Merrill makes his way to army recruitment, where Anthony Michael Hall, stuffed into a glass jar, tells us the aliens are doing their version of a military procedure called probing. Drink. Then, while Anthony Michael Hall stuffed into a glass jar is praising Merrill for his former baseball accolades, a guy called Lionel, who's wearing a sleeveless leather jacket and signing up for the army at the age of 35, calls Merrill a Class A screw-up unironically, before he tells us so much of Merrill's sports history that I think it would have been a brilliant twist to have the movie actually be about Lionel stalking Merrill. Think about it. And drink. Drink. But we can't be angry with Lionel. He's only reading the lines M. Night Dramashama wrote for him to ensure the ending of the movie made sense.
Because everybody knows he writes the endings first.
When they get back from town, they pick up an alien conversation with a $4 baby monitor, even though the military hasn't been able to do the same thing with billions of dollars worth of advanced technology. So Morgan, the 60-year-old child, tells us they're hearing voices that aren't speaking English. Drink. Then he tells the adults to keep their hands on the radio and elevate it to keep the signal strong. And when the adults do what the child tells them to do, he tells us there's two aliens speaking to each other on the monitor. Drink. And after finally seeing an alien in the cornfield, they decide to turn on the TV for some info. And Morgan decides he wants to record it. When Bo objects to him taping over her ballet recital, he tells her everything people have written about in science books is about to change forever because the history of the world's future is on the TV.
When I was his age, I got taken to the hospital once for accidentally driving a fish hook into my own ankle. Drink.
Drink. After the kids finally fall asleep, Graham and Meryl spell out the point of the movie when they debate the concept of signs and whether there's such a thing as coincidence. Drink. Graham tells Meryl his wife's exact last words before she died because, again, the ending won't make sense without them. Then Meryl parks himself in front of the TV to tell us the aliens are pretending they're gone, but they aren't. They're just hovering behind some cloaking device. Then he tells us the crop circles are probably some sort of visual mapping system. Drink. Graham joins his kids in their room while Morgan explains the aliens are either there to make contact in the spirit of exploration, or they're hostile. Drink. The man who killed Graham's wife in the accident phones the house, so Graham heads to his house to find M. Night Shyamalan doing yet another cameo in one of his own movies. And even though it's only been 6 months and he admitted to working way too long the day it happened, and he did kill Graham's wife, he's still driving around. He explains the details of the accident to Graham, even though they would have all come out during the police investigation. Drink. Then he speculates the aliens don't like water because the crop circles are in fields. Drink. Then he apologizes and tells Graham not to go inside his house because there's an alien in his pantry.
And I'm just wondering why the hell he thought Graham would be going into his house at all, given they've just spoken and he's told him everything that he had to say.
So Graham goes into the pantry where he does indeed find an alien hiding next to the bread bin. And when the visitor takes a swipe at him, Graham dices his digits. As things heat up outside and around the world, the family shelters in the basement so Morgan's asthma trope can be exploited to the fullest. But he makes it through the night, and the next morning when they hear the aliens have left, they all head back upstairs. But things aren't gonna end that easily. This is an M. Night Shyamalan movie. So the alien who lost his fingers to Graham's knife has somehow managed to wind up in his living room with his son as a hostage. So Graham tells Meryl to swing away, referencing the last thing his wife said to him before she died. And then in the greatest example of lazy writing ever to have earned somebody money, Shyamalan has the alien shoot toxic gas into the lungs of an asthmatic child from a convenient dispenser in its wrist.
He didn't even have to set the fucking kid down.
Graham grabs his son as Meryl smacks the alien around like an extraterrestrial piñata, which technically means Meryl's special talent setup did pay off.
But I'm guessing anybody could have done the same, right? I mean, hand that bat to the mother of the child and watch her break every one of Meryl's records before that thing even touches a glass of water.
And if you thought he'd written all those glasses of water into the living room for nothing, man, are you in for a treat. It turns out, Earth's water kills our alien visitors. And that's why Bo leaves glasses of them everywhere. So, they'd figured out interstellar travel, but they didn't think about the water that comprises over 70% of our planet.
No, it's not quite as remarkable as finding out that Bruce Willis was dead the whole time, but M. Night Shyamalan is really, really trying, and that's very obvious.
But we're not done yet. None of the toxic gas gets into Morgan's lungs because of his asthma. And if you're a logical person, you'd think oxygen wouldn't have gotten in either. But hey, look at him all smiling and being alive.
The alien is killed and the rest of them leave, and there you have it, the plot to M. Night Shyamalan's Signs. Let's take a look at the good bits first.
The good bits.
Despite all of my jokes, Signs has a great overall tone, and that goes a really long way. The mood's established in the opening seconds with a brilliant score from multiple award-winning American composer James Newton Howard, who's done the music for over 100 huge Hollywood hits, from Prince of Tides to The Dark Knight. The acting's also very well done, and why shouldn't it be? This was Abigail Breslin's first movie, and that still amazes me given how well she did for a 5-year-old. Rory Culkin had a movie or two under his belt in 2002, but he was still only 13 during filming. And although I made fun of the wisdom beyond his age angle, he was only doing what he was told, and he did it very well. And what can you say about Mel Gibson? He was a tremendous actor who did something stupid and now he's forever tarnished. And that guy that played Merrill, Whopping Phenol, I think he went on to do a few things as well, but I'm not totally sure. One thing M. Night Shyamalan is brilliant at is building suspense through intrigue. Every one of his movies has you guessing and wanting to find out what's going on. He grips you really early and has you begging for an explanation shortly thereafter. And that makes his movies very easy to watch.
But
there's two equally balanced sides to suspense. This leads us nicely into
The shite bits.
when you're creating suspense in a film, you feed the audience little bits of incomplete information and contradictory evidence to get them wondering. Holding things back from the viewer is requisite to creating suspense, but anybody can do that part. The real art is in crafting a satisfying reveal. The suspense only becomes great at the moment of payoff. If the info you've been withholding is mediocre or predictable, your audience is going to feel ripped off. A perfect example of how to do this properly is The Sixth Sense. You can't really beat it for setup and payoff. But Shyamalan's been trying to do exactly that for nearly 23 years. And as I've said, I do admire his doggedness. But this is why his films have a reputation of having intriguing premises with underwhelming endings.
The verdict.
So, should you watch Signs 20 years after its release if you haven't seen it? Or should you stab it in the chest with your barbecue fork and toss it willy-nilly into the cornfield?
fans of this movie often cite the way each of the characters' things contributed perfectly to the ending. Bo's glasses of water become weapons of mass destruction. Merrill's baseball history allows him to annihilate the alien. Morgan's asthma keeps the poisonous gas out of his bloodstream, and Graham ultimately regains his lost faith when he starts seeing all these events not as coincidences, but as signs. Beyond what I've already said, what I liked most about this movie is the choice that it gives you. It's the same choice that Graham had to make in order to save his family. Were all of these events simply random, or are there no coincidences? If you believe in the former, this movie's kinda dumb. But if you're more for the latter, this movie's pretty friggin' deep. And no, I am not going to tell you which one I think because I barely know you. Until next time, folks. It's me, Johnny, from that thing you just watched. If you enjoyed it, go down there and smash me in the face to subscribe. And if you want to watch another thing, there's one right there. Do it!